Hello and welcome to the Pop Council Podcast, the show where we cover everything in pop culture. Each week on the show, we discuss topics in the geek world and various fandoms such as Disney, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, theme parks, and everything in between. I'm Jami, Philbrick, entertainment journalist and critic for We Live Entertainment and Movie Phone, and a member of the Hollywood Critics Association. We have a great show for you today. We will be discussing Hawkeye spoilers for episode 4. Kevin Feige confirms Charlie Cox will play Daredevil in the MCU. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 trailer, the final Matrix Resurrection trailer, and Cowboy Bebop has been canceled, and so much more. But as always, it is not a pop council without my co-host Wendy Lee. Hey, Wendy.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. How's your week been? How are you doing?
The weekend started off really great yesterday. I went to Universal Studios and visited Grinchmas. So the holidays is in full effects. There's decoration everywhere. So I got to see the tree. I got to see some Who's. I got to have a hot butterbeer. I'm very happy.
You saw some Who's?
I saw some Who's.
That's awesome. I saw your pictures. I saw your pictures on Instagram. It looks super fun. A
lot of fun. Very colorful, very bright. Guests are already like dressing up in their Christmas gear to go and take pictures with with Grinchmas. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I met Max, so your day is immediately elevated when you meet Max the dog.
And Max is real. Max is a real dog that they have there. That's amazing. I saw that. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's so cool. Well, it wouldn't be a pop council without a third member of the council. And our returning champion coming back, one of our favorites, Mark Pacis. Hey, Mark!
Hey!
Woo-hoo! What's up, guys?
With his fitting Matrix background.
I mean, I can't wait. I really can't wait for the new movie.
Next week, right?
I had to go. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
2 weeks.
2 weeks,
22nd.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because they don't want to go up against Spider-Man as much as we love Matrix. They don't want to go up against Spider-Man.
This is true.
Absolutely. Well, we obviously, this is going to be our last show of the 2021 season of the year. Wendy, this is 41 podcasts we've done in 2021. Is that amazing?
That's crazy.
I never thought. Yeah, I know. So thank you all for continuing to watch. We really appreciate it. We couldn't do the show without an audience. But I wanted to just start off by kind of looking back a little bit at 2021. Obviously, year 2 of the pandemic, another strange year. We kind of got through, the pandemic in the early part, and then theaters opened up in the summer, and then they shut back down again. And then now things have been opened up, and everyone's getting their vaccinations and their boosters, and now we're going back to possibly shutting down for a little bit over the holiday season. But there were some great movies this year. I'll just start out with a couple of my favorite pop culture things this year. The fact that we got Zack Snyder's version of his Justice League, in March, that was something I think in fandom we've been talking about for years. 3 or 4 years since the original came out in 2017. So to see that 4-hour version on HBO Max was really incredible for me. And then the other thing I'll add is just obviously all the Disney Plus shows. We started the year with WandaVision and went into Winter Soldier, and we got What If, and now we're finishing off with Hawkeye, which I absolutely love, and we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But I mean, Loki, man, that show, that was just the thing for me this year. I think, along with Justice League, and I really loved Suicide Squad, which you both know I've talked about in the show. I loved the Suicide Squad. But man, that Loki series, that just came out gangbusters. And, and we talked, Wendy, all the Mephisto nonsense during WandaVision, and it was we really did get Kang. You know what I mean? We knew that was coming. It was the Easter eggs were there, and the fact that they really pulled it off, was great. So those are sort of the 2 or 3 things that I really remember about this year and loved. Wendy, what were some of your favorite pop culture stuff this year. It doesn't just have to be movies or TVs, like an event or something that, although obviously there weren't a lot of events this year.
Well, I think for me, even though we don't have to stick in the movie TV world, my brain goes straight to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Of course.
There was a lot of anticipation for me for that movie, especially not knowing too much about the source material prior to going in, and then having seen the movie. And I remember saying to myself, I think it was maybe 15 minutes in, how proud I already felt sitting there watching the movie, and how like many parts of it, especially the opening, was a lot of just Mandarin being spoken, and I was, grateful to obviously be bilingual, so didn't have to, read the captions and then kind of look up and down. But I just love that movie so much, and ever since it hit Disney Plus, I've been watching it like every other day. Just watch the movie and over for Tony Leung. So that is one of the awesome moments, and the other one, I would say, I just had so much fun with this, but I gotta give it to WandaVision. Was that 2020 or was that 2021?
Yeah, no, 2021.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's just great because I really didn't know where the show was going to take us. And we went on this crazy trip of, teasing the multiverse, and Wanda seeing her finally becoming Scarlet Witch, being introduced, Agatha and her catchy theme song, watching that show being nominated for awards, winning awards, and all the, of course, the fun, crazy Mephisto tinfoil hat theories, and the whole Ralph Boner thing. Like, it's just a good time. Like, I have such a good time just thinking back and talking about those things with friends and family.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously none of us have seen it yet. Some of us are seeing it this coming week, but I got to imagine in a week and a half, I'm going to be saying Spider-Man, it was one of the best things of 2021. I hope, if the expectations work. Mark, what were some of your favorite stuff this year in pop culture? And it could be movies, television, comic books, an event. Like what really got you excited this year?
Actually, first thing that came to mind was movie theaters opening again, because I'm a huge proponent of, the movie theater experience. And literally the day that they said that LA County was going to let movie theaters open, man, I bought my first ticket to Raya and the Last Dragon.
Yeah,
started up my AMC A list again, and it's just started like watching movies. I think that first couple months, like I watched a movie every weekend, so that was a huge thing for me. And seeing Godzilla versus Kong in IMAX on that giant screen, and that was an experience, because you have to watch two giant titans of kaiju cinema just like battling out on a big ass screen. So there's that. Shang-Chi, of course, like you said, all of the Marvel Disney Plus shows like WandaVision, Loki, Hawkeye. It's a lot, but those ones are the first ones that immediately come to mind to me. So
yeah, absolutely. And I just want to add something, because you brought it up. Can I just say how brilliant an animated film Raya the Last Dragon is? And I know that Disney's really pushing Encanto for best animated picture, but really, everyone, if you're in a voting member of any guild, please give Raya another chance, because it's such a great animated movie. I really hope it gets a nomination, and I know Disney's got two that they're pushing, but I hope they push them both equally during the campaign season for awards, because Raya, don't you guys agree? Wasn't Raya just amazing?
So good.
I loved it. One of my favorite animated Disney. Is it Pixar or Disney? It's just Disney proper,
it's
right?
Disney.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite animated Disney movies. It's certainly in recent years. So just a little plug for Raya and the Last Dragon.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Hawkeye, since we were talking about Disney and Marvel and all that. And obviously, another great episode this week. Episode 4, we saw a lot of, I think the story was sort of moving ahead pretty well in this episode. Obviously, we've kind of gotten through all the stuff with the, we set up the tracksuit mafia. We're figuring out, is Jack the swordsman? Is Eleanor the bad guy? Who's the uncle? All these things that kind of the last 2 episodes set up. And, I don't think that this was a shocker or a surprise to anyone. But of course, in this episode, we got our first look at Yelena returning, Florence Pugh returning as the new Black Widow. We see her here in her stealth outfit. And she had a really cool 4-way battle scene on a rooftop with Hawkeye and Kate and Echo. And then, of course, eventually the mask came off and we were revealed to see Yelena. And it's interesting because I didn't quite get from the episode. Hawkeye, Clint mentions that's a Black Widow assassin, whether he recognizes her as Yelena, the quote unquote sister of Natasha or not. I don't know. Mark and I co-host the Hawkeye after show here on HCN. We were talking about this the other day, and I mentioned that, it was a long ride to Voldemir. So I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff that could have been. She could have recapped the entire Black Widow solo film plot to Hawkeye while they were flying on the Guardian spaceship to Voldemir. So, Wendy, let me start it with you because Mark and I kind of talked about this on the other show last week. But what was your reaction to Yelena finally appearing? Obviously, we knew that was going to happen. It had been teased in the Black Widow end credit scene. But seeing her, and do you think that Clint recognized her or only recognized her as a Black Widow assassin?
So I think that obviously that this moment has been teased. It was just a matter of when she was going to show up and how she was going to show up. I love that they had her show up in episode 4 as into later because they literally have 2 more episodes left. And from what I'm hearing, episode 5 is supposed to be bananas. I know nothing else about any details. So I don't know if this means one specific uncle is going to show up or and blow our mind, or if Mephisto is going to finally reveal himself. Who knows?
Not Mephisto.
It's finally happening. But the way she showed up was so fantastic. The rooftop fight scene was really great. And it did, even though knowing that Florence Pugh was set to show up and make a cameo in Hawkeye, when Clint said, Maya's on the roof with me, and she's not because Kate's looking at her in her apartment, you're thinking, who could it be? And it wasn't until we went back onto the roof that I was like, it's Yelena because of the fighting style.
Right.
As to whether or not Clint knows that is Natasha's sister, I'm going to say no. I feel like had he known that, he really would have, maybe he would have gone after her and tried to catch her a second time on Boromir. Because the letting go is essentially he has the family. She really doesn't, like, she was, she made it seem like she was so, and also, being a Black Widow assassin also means, Clint kind of says it like he's meant to be a goat. I don't know if he says it, but we know that assassins and spies like Natasha and Clint are paid because they're good at disappearing and blending in. So I think Natasha wouldn't have outright said it, even though she knows about Clint's family. I don't think she would have been quite open. Not that she doesn't want to talk about her sister or anything like that. It's just that I think she's also trying to keep her sister's identity safe as well. So I think that might be part of the reason why. So I don't think Clint will know who that is, but he obviously knows Natasha well enough, have fought alongside her for many years. So he recognizes, Widow Tech and with the repulsors on the wrist and the fighting style. The second he probably, blocked a couple of punches, he goes, oh, this is a Widow assassin. So that's going to be interesting. The next meetup that they have, what that's going to be like.
That's a very convincing argument, Wendy. I think you just convinced me that he doesn't know because you're right. Natasha, I mean, who keeps secrets better than Natasha? That was her superpower in a sense, right? Kind of keeping things close to the vest. And then you have, a really good point. Like on Voldemir, the whole idea was, you have a family. It needs to be me. No, I did all these terrible, Clint, I did all these terrible things. help bring my family back, but this is how I'm going to do it. So yeah, I think it's maybe a stronger choice for the rest of the Hawkeye series for him not to know and then maybe discover, and then of course discover that Contessa is, sort of pulling the strings behind her there. Mark, did you find it anticlimactic because we knew Yelena, and they had teased it so much, we knew it was happening. How did you sort of feel when it finally did happen? Did it work for you? Did that scene work for you? And where do you think we go from here, the next 2 episodes with this character? There's a lot of characters now on this show, right? We've got Echo, we've got the swordsman, we've got the mother who may be bad, right? Vera Farmiga. We've got this uncle character, Echo, and then of course, Yelena, right? So I don't know. It's a lot of characters to juggle. Where do you think we're going at this point on?
I mean, there are still a lot of possibilities, and no, I didn't think it was anticlimactic that Yelena showed up where she did. I mean, we knew at the end of Black Widow that she was going to show up. It was just a matter of when, and I don't think that it would have been fair for her or the character for her to come and show up in the penultimate episode next week. And to your point, Wendy, I just want to say this. Like, I have a theory that because we've all probably have seen the rumors that next week's episode is supposed to be like mind-blowing or break the internet style, but don't you think it's kind of coincidental that we're getting that kind of episode the same week as No Way Home, when No Way Home and Hawkeye are in the same timeline, both take place in 2024. Both are taking place in New York City. I'm not saying that, they're going to see,
You've hit on our next topic. That's exactly what I was going to ask you guys next, because
literally, I hadn't thought about it.
That's what everyone is saying. This mind-blowing episode happens to be the same week as Spider-Man. We have that Kingpin thing going on, and we'll jump ahead a little bit. We'll get into it a little bit more in a second, but Charlie Cox has been confirmed to return as Daredevil. So obviously with the Spider-Man rumors with Kingpin and Hawkeye, I mean, it really blows our nerdy minds. So I want to ask Wendy what she thinks about all that, but Mark, I want to make sure that you had finished your thought there.
I'm not saying that, we're going to see like the sky break apart like we do at the end of that No Way Home trailer, but I'm just saying.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah, that the Hawkeye world isn't gonna, right.
Yeah, because that kind of situation doesn't work for, this kind of like grounded show. But to see, the reveal of like the uncle, Kingpin, the potential of, other Netflix characters in this world, like showing up. I mean, the possibilities are endless for what next week entails to, because, if the rumors are true, then we're going to get, a lot in these next 2 episodes.
Now, do we know, does Spider-Man, as far as I know, No Way Home does not take place at Christmas time. It takes place right after. So they would be off by several. They would be off by several months, because if it picks up right after Far From Home, then we're probably
which was
summer. So we're in the fall. So technically, and I don't know if this is correct, I haven't seen Spider-Man, I'm going to guess it's 3 months before the events of Hawkeye.
I actually looked this up, and they said that it takes place immediately after what happens at the end of the post credits for Far From Home, where J. Jonah Jameson outs Peter Parker as Spider-Man. I mean, which makes which story-wise it
But
makes sense because
that would be a late summer, early fall, and certainly three months before the a couple weeks before Christmas, where Hawkeye takes place. Wendy, what do you think about this idea that there could be? Because as far as I know, I mean, I guess you can make the point that Black Widow, had it come out when it was originally supposed to, would have sort of sunk up with the shows a little bit more. But this would really be the first time that the TV shows and the movies, and I know they try to do this with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but because those really, it was almost two different groups within the same company doing those shows, they weren't really able to orchestrate that. This would be the first time they really pull that off. And we know that there was some moving around with the scheduling of Hawkeye on Disney Plus because of certain things. So, I mean, what do you think this means? I don't think it means that Tom Holland will be in Hawkeye, but could there be some kind of link that makes sense?
The link that the only evidence of a link that I saw, and it wasn't even in an actual trailer, and maybe I did see it in one of the trailers, but I was watching my friends over at The Real Rejects, and they had another trailer breakdown or whatever, one of those. So I watched it. I usually click on their videos just so to support, give a little like. They're my friends. I've been friends with them for years. So in one of their most recent videos, I watched it, and it was just a few seconds in, and as Peter is swinging through the city, he swings by the poster of Rogers the Musical.
No.
So, yeah. Ooh. I didn't see the rest of the video, so I can't tell you much more than that, because my brain stopped working, and I typed in, I was one of those people, all caps, in their comment section, Rogers the Musical.
Well, that makes
I'm
sense.
Slightly obsessed, so yeah.
The musical probably didn't premiere at Christmas time. It probably had been running for several months on Broadway before that. So
it could premiere at Christmas time, but they would do advertisement leading up to it. So
and previews, probably some previews in October and November, and That's
so I just thought that was I caught that because it's such a bright yellow.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh, did they forget? Oh, Rogers the Musical.
All right, quick side tangent, but I just want to get your votes. I think I know which way Wendy's going to go on this. Would you want a real Rogers the Musical, or let's just say a real MCU Marvel musical on Broadway? Like, is that, it may be in the vein of Spider-Man Turn Off the Lights or whatever, that Turn Off the Dark or whatever that was called. I mean, Wendy, would you want to see an actual stage version of the Rogers musical?
So I joke about it all the time. Ever since I saw the poster, I was like, oh my God, I would pay money to see Rogers the Musical. However, because I think bringing a Broadway show that's mentioned briefly in a Disney Plus show to actual live Broadway is a little too meta even for me. I would love for them to kind of retell an Avengers type story, but it would be a different name. However, if they ever did Rogers the Musical in some sort of a performance way at Disneyland, like via the Hyperion, I would 100% be showing up for all free showtimes or whatever. For sure. It's a missed opportunity that they haven't been able to do that because of, I don't know what their thing is for indoor seating for, how it is for theme parks restrictions and whatnot. But if they did it, because they had Aladdin there for a long time, put Rogers the Musical in there, promote the show.
That makes sense. That I could see happening. And that might be actually cool. I'm not interested in an actual Broadway production of Rogers the Musical, but that's just me. Mark, how do you feel about it?
I mean, we talked about this on the Hawkeye after show, and I was 100% in on Rogers the Musical up until you just said, a second ago, Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, and I'm like, oh, crap, that's right.
That was
so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I never saw it, but just from the look of Green Goblin, I'm like, no, that's a hard pass for me. So at that point, I'm like, no. But until Wendy just said a second ago, put it into the Hyperion, which makes sense because if you guys ever been to Avengers Campus, Hyperion is right there next to Avengers Campus. It's literally next door to Guardians, the Guardians ride. So I could see them potentially doing that as the next Hyperion show because we don't need any more Frozen. We don't need Frozen the musical there anymore. leave the parents alone, because they probably heard Let It Go so many times at this point. Like, even how many years? Like,
Yeah, it's been a
30
while.
years?
Oh yeah.
It probably
Almost,
took off
almost
30
10.
years off their parents' life listening to that song on
Have
repeat. But
either of you ever seen, and I don't know if they still do it, I probably saw it, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, but there used to be like a traveling Marvel stunt show. Do you know what
Oh,
I'm talking
yeah.
about?
oh yeah,
I saw it
I've-
at the
yeah.
forum, and it was actually really cool, but it's also super cheesy. But it's cool, but it's cheesy. And I kind of imagine if they did a Broadway production of Rogers, like I kind of imagine it being like that. You know what I mean? Like it's just sort of a cheesy version, or like if you go to Universal Florida and they own the rights to the Marvel characters pre-MCU, right? So the actual comic book versions of Spider-Man and Wolverine and Iron Man walking around, and it's a little cheesy, and they don't quite look like what we're used to now with the MCU live action people. I kind of imagine a Rogers musical being like that, but
Yeah.
we shall
That's why
see.
it would look better at the
100%.
Hyperion as opposed to like an
I
actual,
agree.
It
would fit in there. It would fit Disney. It would fit, yeah. It would
and
be,
you can
that would
just
be
do a
right.
10, 11-minute preview. You perform that one song, and then you like
Right.
do it like a little bit more, just like full out dance, and then that's it.
Right,
Mhm.
right. It doesn't have to be the full show. It could be just like maybe the scene we saw in the first episode. Yeah. Well, I just sort of blurted it out a few minutes ago, but there was really big news this week. I loved this confirmation. I believe it was Cinema Blend was doing press. Did an interview with Kevin Feige for Spider-Man No Way Home, and Kevin Feige confirmed that when you see Daredevil next in the MCU, he will be played by Charlie Cox. I thought this was an amazing confirmation. Not unlike, and I've talked about this on the show before, when Age of Ultron was coming out on Blu-ray, I did some event with Kevin Feige, and it was about at the same time that Daredevil was premiering on Netflix, and that they had just gotten the rights to use Spider-Man in Civil War. And I said, if you ever decide to bring Kingpin into the MCU, would you use Vincent D'Onofrio or recast the actor? And Kevin simply said, I see no reason to recast the actor. And I felt like this was a similar kind of confirmation, like we don't feel that those Netflix shows are canon, but we like almost all of the actors. You all know which actor they don't like. They like almost all of the actors who are part of those shows. And, there's no reason not to use Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio and possibly Kristen Ritter and Michael Coulter, as those characters. If you are going to bring Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and, Daredevil and Wilson Fisk into this world. So now it doesn't mean that he's in Spider-Man No Way Home, and it doesn't mean that we're going to see Charlie Cox in Hawkeye before the end of the season, although it is interesting that this news came out right before Spider-Man was released, and as we all are anticipating a Vincent D'Onofrio cameo at some point in the next 2 weeks. So, Mark, let me start with you. How happy were you to hear this news, and what do you think it really means?
I was very happy because I think Charlie Cox embodies the heart and spirit of Matt Murdock and Daredevil, which is a very, rare occurrence considering Kevin Feige didn't cast Charlie Cox as, Daredevil and Matt Murdock. And Kevin Feige, as we all know, is very, has pitch perfect casting decisions. So I thought that, watching the first season of Daredevil, actually all Daredevil is, I'm thinking, man, if they bring him back, that would be, perfect, because he embodies everything that we all love about Daredevil. And, confirmation of it is, perfect. And I will say that it's perfect timing for what Kevin Feige says, because if Charlie Cox wasn't coming out in No Way Home or Hawkeye, we probably wouldn't be hearing about this. So he should be coming up sometime soon, because otherwise we wouldn't be hearing about it at all. Because how Kevin Feige is, very big on secrets, and he's very good at, in interviews, like kind of dodging the question to something else. Kind of like how he was talking with you about, Vincent D'Onofrio about, oh yeah, I don't see why not, but we'll see, kind of thing. But this is an outright like, yeah, he's gonna be, the next Daredevil. We don't know when, but he will be coming up soon. So,
I think that's a very good point. I mean, obviously the question was asked because there have been rumors for months that he could show up in Spider-Man. But if Feige wanted to, dance around that answer, like he gave a very specific answer.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. He absolutely could have gotten around that if he wanted to. So it does maybe indicate that we'll see Charlie sooner than later. And I think it's also important to remember that, Disney and Marvel is also, obviously they're a business and they want to work with actors that they like, but that are also, big names in their own. And all of these actors have really gone on, especially John Bernthal. I would imagine even if he had never played the Punisher, I would imagine Marvel would be talking to him about trying to bring him into the MCU for something because he's such a great actor. And, he's having a really great point in his career right now. The fact that he was the Punisher, why would you want to cast someone else? And I think Charlie falls in the same category as do the other actors that I mentioned. Wendy, how excited were you for this news and what that the confirmation means for the future of the MCU and Daredevil?
It gives me the confirmation gives me a lot of hope that maybe we'll see some of the other fave shows and characters back. You've mentioned them just previously, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, The Punisher. I really enjoyed those shows so much. And I was so sad to see them go. And somewhere in my brain, even though the announcement had, came out and they were going to be canceled, I was like, if I continue to watch repeatedly, maybe this will change their mind. But I'm so glad that they are choosing to not recast Charlie Cox as Daredevil, because like Mark said, he really embodies not just Daredevil himself, but also as Matt Murdock. So I really don't see any other actor playing Daredevil at this point. And the same goes for Kingpin, aka Wilson Fisk. Is that D'Onofrio did such a good job being this imposing, intimidating character. And I know we had just talked about Hawkeye, and I know it's just barely been teased, but like it's gonna blow my mind if and when he shows up. So this is all really good news. I know the fans are going to be welcoming back Charlie Cox as Daredevil with open arms because they've been screaming about it for so many years. And I hope this means that we will also hopefully get to see some of the other shows back. I really enjoyed Luke Cage. I really enjoyed Jessica Jones. So yeah.
I completely agree.
Don't you want to see what happens with not Daredevil, but with Punisher and what's his face?
Jigsaw. Yeah.
Jigsaw.
There was I actually just recently finally watched season 2 of Punisher, and there is sort of a resolution to that in the second season. One of my pet peeves is, as a comic book fan, has always been that when studios have adapted certain characters, if for some reason that didn't go well, then they say, well, it's the character's fault. It couldn't possibly be because we got the wrong director or the wrong actors. It's the character's fault. And a great example of that is Green Lantern. Green Lantern absolutely should have been in Justice League. He wasn't because they blamed, Ryan Reynolds or, Martin Campbell for that, blamed the character for that movie not working out, and it wasn't the character's fault. And so I'm very glad, because Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage are honestly 4 of my favorite Marvel characters of all time. And especially in like the new Avengers runs in the early 2000s, those characters are so important in those teams that had Spider-Man and Iron Man and Wolverine, that I really was hoping they would be brought, when they were announced as Netflix shows, the promise was they were going to be brought into the MCU, and that didn't happen. And so I'm really glad to hear that, okay, Marvel doesn't, they want to disassociate themselves from the Netflix shows. I get it. It's a business. They want to do their own shows on Disney Plus, but let's not, leave these characters behind. Like, these are great characters, and the actors were really good that they were cast. For whatever reasons you want to kind of move on, but let's move these characters into the MCU and do what you want to do with them. And I think that that's what we're going to see slowly happen. We hope, but it'll be interesting when we get whatever version of the new Vincent D'Onofrio Kingpin and the new Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock, and Daredevil. It's going to be really exciting. So fingers crossed we get a little Matt Murdock in Spider-Man, or possibly in Hawkeye. Certainly some Wilson Fisk in Hawkeye before the end of the season. And then, of course, we have Echo coming, which we know that character is very rooted in the Daredevil and Kingpin world. So we could be setting the stage for something coming next year. So we'll see. We've got some trailers that dropped this week, so we'll talk about those real quick. We saw a new trailer for Sonic the Hedgehog 2, sort of a surprise hit of 2020. One of the last kind of films to do well in the box office theatrically before everything shut down. A surprise hit. I actually enjoyed it. I didn't think it was a fantastic movie, but a good movie for kids. And I did think that Jim Carrey's performance was pretty out there and pretty fantastic in that movie. We will see Jim Carrey return in the new trailer. We also got our first look at Tails, if you remember the old Sega, right? Wasn't it Sega? I almost said Nintendo. Yep. Sega video game. And that's Tails. And we also got to see Knuckles' first appearance, and he will be voiced by Idris Elba, one of my favorite actors. So that's very exciting. And will be sort of an antagonist working with Jim Carrey's character against Sonic and Tails, who will be helping out. So, Wendy, what did you think about this trailer? What did you think about the first movie? Are you excited at all? Do you think it'll be an improvement maybe on the first movie? And what do you think about the addition of these kind of fan favorite characters from the game?
I think the first film was such a surprise for me because obviously we all remember the original design for Sonic when they first released it.
Yes.
And then nobody liked it. It was weird. I was like, okay, I'll go with it, but it was weird, and I couldn't wrap my head around the human teeth.
Yep.
For Sonic, and that really I was like, I don't know if I can watch that for like hour and a half to 2 hours, So when the studio was like, okay, we hear you. I think for the first time ever for a studio to do something like as grand as this, I believe it cost them a ton of money to do the redesign for Sonic. And I don't know if they had to do reshoots because of it, but I love the new design of Sonic. I had such a great time watching the movie, and I just kept watching. I was like, man, this is fantastic. And to see Jim Carrey embrace his role as Dr. Robotnik, he's just doing, what I love watching Jim Carrey do. And I think he does a tremendous job at it. So with the second one, I'm very excited to be seeing Tails and Knuckles showing up. And I think, again, the character design, very similar to now what we see the updated Sonic one, looks really great. And I also didn't realize that we were going to hear Knuckles talk. I don't know why, for some reason, I thought because it's like a first official trailer that they were going to have him show up and you're like, there's the nemesis. And then they were going to give us more dialogue in the next one. But man, he spoke and I was like, oh, it feels like it's going to get a little bit darker. I like that we got to see, I think it was the Chaos Emerald in this. So I'm very excited. I feel like this one's ramping up to be bigger than the previous. There's more at stake, more characters at play.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a very good point too about what happened with the studio redesigning it. I mean, I think that's honestly some of the smartest money they probably ever spent because I think it improved it and they were able to really sort of test the waters of what audiences wanted from their Sonic. They don't always know exactly what they have. And so I think that was very smart. The only thing that I didn't love about the first movie, and I hope that they correct this a little bit in the second one, and this is me, I mean, no offense to the actor James Marsden, who I think is a very good actor, and I loved him on Westworld and obviously in the X-Men and a lot of different stuff. I just thought I just didn't like that. They were kind of going the kiddie route, you know, and using that character as, you know, sort of his human friend. And I didn't like that whole storyline. Once they really got to him versus Jim Carrey, like that's the movie for me. And I hope that they concentrate a little bit more on that in this one. I mean, I don't want to say like, let's kill off James Marsden's character so it gives Sonic something to fight for, but I do feel like maybe they're kind of going in that direction a little bit. We see in the trailer, there's this like nice sort of scene where he's explaining to him what it means to be a hero in the boat. And I'm like, oh, well, that's when that's going to explode and he's going to die. And then that's the whole movie is him fighting, you know, for his friend. And that's probably a little dark for a kid's movie, but it would be interesting to see. Mark, what were your thoughts on the trailer and the addition of Knuckles and Tails?
Okay, full disclaimer, I haven't actually watched the first movie, so, but not that I'm against watching it, it's just, you know, I haven't gotten around to actually watching it, but everything I've heard about the movie so far, you guys have talked about already, so, you know, it's just a matter of maybe I'll watch it right before the second one comes out, and also, talk about Sonic, like I was more of a Nintendo guy. Like I've always wanted to play a Sega game, you know, a Sega Genesis, but no one in my, you know, inner circle when I was a kid had a Genesis. It was all Nintendo all the time. So I have no connection whatsoever with Sonic. That being said, I am excited to hear Idris Elba as Knuckles, because even though I know nothing about Sonic, I know that Knuckles is, you know, kind of like a nemesis to Sonic. And, you know, to see him play like kind of like a bad guy with, you know, his like voice, it's like, man, like it's going down in the second one. So, you know, it's good to see that. It's good to see Jim Carrey back to his old ways, like post In Living Color, like around the time of, you know, Ace Ventura, you know, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask. So it's good to see him in these, you know, this kind of like very wacky roles again. But, you know, as for, you know, the trailer, it's, you know, it's good.
It was a good, good little slice of life, little slice. I agree with you. I actually was a big Nintendo guy growing up too. The only reason I ended up getting Sega was because they had that amazing X-Men Apocalypse game that was based on the X-Men 90s cartoon. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Oh, it was awesome. Yeah. You could play Gambit, Nightcrawler, Wolverine. Yeah, I loved that game. And then you got Sonic free with the console. So that's the only history I have with Sonic. Well, listen, Mark, with your Matrix background, we would be remiss not to talk about the final Matrix Resurrection trailer that came out this past week. We got to see some new footage, a lot of the footage we'd already seen from the previous trailer, and there was a lot of footage from the franchise, from the original 3 trilogy movies, kind of cut in, I think, to sort of demonstrate some of the similarities between this world and the world we saw before. But to me, the most interesting part of this trailer, we had not to this point seen Jada Pinkett Smith return as Niobe. And I was actually quite surprised to see her. Here she is, looking more Oracle from the original trilogy than she does look Niobe. Obviously, the character has aged. You can't see it in this photo, but she is talking to the current version of Keanu Reeves, of Neo, in this movie. And so one would think that time for Neo has not worked the same way it has worked for everyone else in Zion. So I don't know what this all means, but I really liked seeing this shot. It was very intriguing to me where they might be going with some of this story in this new film. And obviously one would think they're setting up 2 more films on top of it if this one is successful. Wendy, what were your thoughts on this new trailer? Are you excited for Matrix? opening, I believe, not this coming week, but the following week, the week of Christmas. And what do you make of this shot of Jada Pinkett Smith?
You know, The Matrix, I feel like I really, because I've got a while before the film comes out anyways, maybe I take the weekend and revisit at least the first one. It's really been a hot minute since I even picked up any of The Matrix. I have all the DVDs, so I can just rewatch them to kind of refamiliarize myself with the world, and then go through 2 and 3, just so I can kind of catch myself up with it. But the trailer has been really interesting. We're seeing, they kind of really are focusing on that theme of deja vu. So we're seeing a lot of the parallels from the previous films in this one. I'm very interested in how they're going to be using those moments, and how time does work for Neo, or maybe that's just like who knows? Because when I first initially saw the trailer, like upon the first watch, I didn't immediately go, "Oh, that's Jada Pinkett Smith's character." I immediately thought Oracle. But then after watching a couple other things, I was like, oh. So I'm very curious. I'm interested in The Matrix, obviously. I will watch Keanu Reeves in anything and everything. So the movie definitely has my support, but I want to kind of go in this cautiously optimistic because I like the franchise. I love the first film and I love the character. So I want them to do this. I mean, this film's coming out 20 years after the original,
right,
or something like that. It's been a long time. So I know the fans are very excited. Like, can you believe we're getting another film? And I think there's a lot of space to fill in, depending on how they approach it, because I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. But that's what I'll say is I'm cautiously optimistic.
I think cautiously optimistic is a good way to go into any movie.
True.
Or especially a franchise movie like this. And I think the first one came out in 99. So I'm going to say this is 22 years.
Yeah, it is 99.
Wow.
And, we've heard
1990, I was
rumors.
in high school.
Yeah,
We've heard rumors that there would be a new Oracle in this film and obviously we know there's a new Morpheus and a new, whatever, new agents. Right. So, but she definitely does look Oracle-esque.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that she's still playing Niobe, but is Niobe the new Oracle, or did they just kind of play on that idea and make her sort of look like that? And obviously we'll get an Oracle in the Matrix. I'm also assuming that this scene takes place at Zion or somewhere outside of the Matrix itself. But Mark, what do you think about this shot, about the trailer, about the appearance of Niobe, and really where this Matrix series is going?
Watching the new trailer, I got way more questions than potential answers. Like seeing Jonathan Groff being intertwined with Agent Smith, as he says, Mr. Anderson. I'm like, is he the new Agent Smith or is he a agent? And then seeing, Niobe look Oracle-esque, I'm like, is she, the new Oracle, or is she still Niobe? And, I'm just like thinking, is this trailer cut in a way where everything is a red herring and this is kind of like, a metaphor that, the Matrix is messing with our heads kind of way, where it's like, we want you to go into this movie thinking one thing, and then when you see the movie, it's totally something else because that's something that, the machines would do. I don't know. It's a lot of questions and not a lot of answers. And, my other one was, is Neo like some sort of clone or something, or something made up by the machines to mess with, the humans? Or I don't know. It's just really cool. I always love the visuals of the Matrix. Like I know this is like a sports reference, but I think, most people will get this, reference anyways. But like the Matrix was like our Jordan of the era, where it's like, that's our action movie, like for our generation. Like, some people had, Bullet, or some people, had
Die
the
Hard.
Rambo series, Die Hard, Terminator,
Mm-hmm.
but this was
I'm
like
the Die Hard generation.
Yeah, this is like the Die Hard of our like generation, and so it's people always want to watch The Matrix, even though the second and third one debatable whether or not you liked it. I rewatched it and I thought it wasn't as bad as I initially thought. The first time watching it in theaters, it's still nowhere near the same level as the first Matrix, like not even close. But it wasn't as bad as I initially thought. And seeing that now, I'm like, okay, maybe Resurrections is going to be like a nice revival for the series, and then we get two more, which hopefully makes up for or is on the same level as Resurrections or the first Matrix. So it's good to see like it's on its way back, and hopefully, like, I'm crossing my fingers that the movie is good, because to see Keanu Reeves in more things is always going to be a plus. Like, I'm with you, Wendy. It's like I will see anything Keanu Reeves is in, because nice guys need to finish first in this industry. So I've heard he's like one of the nicest people you will ever meet, and I will support him in basically any movie he's in. So more Keanu Reeves, the better.
Well, we all agree with that. Yeah, I agree. I really liked the first one, and I really liked the third one. The second one was actually better than I think it got credit for. It's just that rave scene is terrible. But you take that rave scene out of the movie, and it's actually that action sequence on the highway is really great. So there are things I really liked about it, and to your point about the action movies, I always tell everyone, because I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and like, we had the Michael Keaton Batmans and Christopher Reeve Supermans, but other than that, Die Hard was our superhero. John McClane was our superhero. Die Hard, and and then Matrix, and all the sort of Arnold Schwarzenegger action stuff. Those were my superheroes growing up, which is partly why I love the superhero movie genre of 20 years that we find ourselves in now. And also, you brought up a point that I hadn't really thought about, Mark, which is Niobe could be, or let's say Jada Pinkett Smith could be playing the new Oracle. She just appears to look like Niobe to this Neo, who may not be the Neo we know. I tend to think he could be a computer program. So, but that he's becoming aware now as Neo, because that's the program, right? If you program a computer version of Neo, well, Neo becomes aware. So that computer program could become aware
like
that
Tron.
He's not Neo. Yeah. Now let's bring up another sci-fi franchise from the 80s that no one wanted to see a remake of. We got a few minutes left, and I want to. Oh, Mark, you have a. Yeah, I don't want to cut you off.
No, I'm like, I love Tron Legacy. I want more Tron.
I did too.
As confusing as the first movie was, I want more Tron. I love Tron want to put Legacy, that out there.
And I loved Blade Runner 2049 or whatever the number was. I think I got the number wrong, but I loved the Blade Runner sequel as well. Okay, I want to get to Wendy's favorite topic of the show before we finish up here for the year. But we talked a lot about Cowboy Bebop when it premiered and when it was coming up. We were very excited for it. I saw the first episode, which I actually really liked. I don't have the history of the source material like Wendy does, and Mark, you might as well, kind of knowing the anime. But I thought it was super stylish. I liked what they were doing with it. But unfortunately, I did not watch the second episode. I've been too busy and haven't gotten into it. That's probably part of the reason that Netflix announced this week that they are canceling the show and not doing a season 2, which I think is unfortunate, because I was looking forward to finishing it and really getting into it, because I did like where it was going with the beginning. But of course, I don't have the background of the source material to know if it really worked or not. And so for that, I'll go to Wendy. What was your thoughts overall of the execution of the series, the reaction to the series, and then of course the announcement that they're just not going to move forward. It just didn't work for in general for the audiences or for Netflix?
Well, I think anime to live action or video game to live action or any sort of adaptation to live action isn't always an easy task. There's so many things you have to look at, and what do you want, what images do you want to pull from said anime that will satisfy the longtime fans and also bring in a general audience who have no idea that the anime even existed, right? And I thought that really with Cowboy Bebop, because I liked all the actors that were involved. I was liking the changes for the costumes. And when I say changes, I mean specifically to Faye's change to her costume, because like it just wouldn't have worked in real life. It's fine for anime and it's fine for cosplay. But you're gonna have this bounty hunter running around, like that outfit was not gonna work. But some of the other things they did, I think they got stuck a little bit too much on making it so stylized and trying to mirror certain parts of the anime that they lost sight of what was so good about the anime, which was the stories, the characters, the history, and that history between I can't remember his name right now and I don't know why, Spike and his nemesis Mark.
Oh,
Mark.
Vicious.
There you go.
Vicious.
Thank you. I was like, I wanted to say Fearless because they actually put that in the show, and I'm like, that's not it.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. That's one of the feelings, because we actually, in the anime, spoiler for anybody who hasn't watched the anime, that name was never really mentioned. Spike just goes by Spike. So I felt like they tried to do so much, but they didn't really capture the essence of the show, other than, obviously the performances of John Cho. I thoroughly enjoyed as Spike, which is probably my favorite thing. I haven't even gotten to the final episode yet, but I know what shows up in the final episode the moment. I did, because I didn't mute the words Cowboy Bebop on my Twitter, so I saw the photos and I was like, and this is why sometimes an exact adaptation, as much as they try and they mean well, they want to satisfy the fans and they're excited about it, it doesn't work. There were things that they changed for certain characters' backstories, origins, that I felt lost. It made us lose sight of who the character, the core is. And I felt like for this one specific character, they had no direction of where they were going to go. So they'll just make them scream a lot. And I didn't love that for this character, because that's not how they were in the anime. I'm trying to stay a little bit vague for anybody who, you may be enjoying the show. And if that is the case, I'm so happy for you. I wish I enjoyed it as much. I am going to continue to watch to finish. But like with Vicious, I also like couldn't buy that. It was just, there were things that Vicious acted and did in episode 5. I think I was like, I don't know if Vicious would have acted like that, but that's just, again, my own opinion. I was trying not to hold on too much to the anime and trying to let the show be the show, because I was fine with accepting a little minor differences, but I felt like some certain core characteristics were changed in that I couldn't get around.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't really surprise me that it got canceled. I think even the fans of the anime, though some did enjoy the live action, I saw a lot more who didn't like it. They were, obviously sad, because who doesn't want it to work out? But it is what it is.
Mark, I want to hear your thoughts on the cancellation, but I also want to pose this question to you, because I look at Dragon Ball Evolution, Ghost in the Shell, as examples. Is it just impossible to adapt anime to live action well? Is that the problem? Because it's never really successfully been done that I can think of.
I mean, not necessarily, because in my eyes, there's actually been 2 good anime adaptations. One is the Rurouni Kenshin trilogy, the live action trilogy, which you can find on Netflix, by the way. It's very good, and the original anime is a classic, and this one kind of adapts it like pretty damn well.
Oh, cool.
And the other one is Alita Battle Angel, which doesn't have, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't have any anime connections. I know it's based off the manga, but I don't know if, I missed out on the anime or anime movie, but those were the only 2. Everything else is just straight up trash. So, I mean, there's always, I mean, listen, I think it's always going to be hard to adapt certain things like anime, video games, but there's a certain level of, respect and a way to use that respect to try and translate it to a much more broader audience. Like, I know, I'm beating a dead horse when I say this, but look at how Marvel Studios is doing their movies. Like,
Right.
it's in a way for them to please fans by taking certain storylines from the comic books and putting them in there to please fans, but also adapting it in a way where we also get, stuff that's palatable for a broader audience, meaning audiences will be able to enjoy it without knowing what the source material is like. And I feel like, with Cowboy Bebop, they try to cater more towards the fans, which, granted is probably a good thing because, there's a lot of us who love the anime, myself included, but it's just, the way that they did it is, respectful in a way to where the general audiences might not get it, and the changes that they did to please general audiences didn't really work out because, to Wendy's point, the whole Vicious thing, man, he is one of the coolest villains in animes ever, and they just made him to be like a little B word. So it's like, with daddy issues nonetheless. So I don't know. I get it that some fans who like the show are disappointed, but there is, those who have not seen the original that are disappointed about the live action being canceled. Trust me, watch the anime.
Watch the original, right?
Watch the original. You may not, think it's like a cartoon, which is total diss on the anime itself, but it's amazing and you will enjoy it and you will see why we as diehard fans love it so much. So
I couldn't agree more. Always go to the source material. Always go to the source material.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, guys, that was a great show. We are out of time. I want to thank all of us for being here. I want to thank all of you for being here all year, all these 41 weeks that we've been doing this show. It's really been a pleasure to do this with you, Wendy, and to have you here, Mark, as much as you have been. So we want to thank you all for tuning in. And remember that we are just one of the shows that the Hollywood Critics Association has launched this year. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and tune into Pop Council every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We will be coming back in January. What date we are coming back at, we don't know quite yet. And we may be changing when we do the show, but we'll let you know. And we hope that you'll all follow us wherever we go in the new year. We also want to remind you about several other shows that we have on HCA, including The Long Box, which is Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Horrifically Horrifying on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Hollywood Approved is at 3 p.m. Pacific Time on certain days. We don't know which days those are. You'll have to check your local listings. What's to Stream is on Thursdays at 11 a.m. and What's Trending in Hollywood Fridays at 11 a.m. And of course, Mark and I want to let you know that you can join us every Wednesday night. Wednesday morning, I should say, at 1:01 a.m. Pacific time, 4:01 Pacific. That's good form, Wendy. That's good Kate Bishop Archer form, where myself, Mark, and Kira Lynn discuss and host the HCA's Hawkeye After Show. So such a pleasure being with you guys. Mark, let everyone know where they can check out your work.
You can find me at all my reviews at nerdreactor.com, and you can also find me on my socials at Twitter, at Instagram, I got it right. At NR7 on, like I said, Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. Wendy, we did it. We did it. It's been a
I
year.
know.
Can you believe it? It's really been one of the highlights of the year for me to get to do this with you, Wendy. And I want to thank you for being such a wonderful co-host and so much fun to do this show with. Let everyone know where they can find you and your work.
No, thanks, Jamie. I had a great time talking all the nerdy stuff with you. It's been so much fun. Like we just goof off on and off camera, I would like to say. You can find all of our movie reviews, trailer reactions, and so much more on the Movie Couple channel on YouTube. Currently, obviously, doing the Hawkeye reactions where I stay up until 4 o'clock in the morning editing. So you'll find that about 5 a.m. Usually that's when it goes up. And then let's see, Twitter, Instagram at Wendy Lee Szany, this business right down here. And if you're on Twitch and you watch people stream games, you can come and watch me play scary games like Little Nightmares 2. Currently too scared to move forward with it. Like that's actually been on a hiatus. So I've been playing cute games, cozy games like Animal Crossing, but I'm going to go back to it. Twitch.tv/Wendy Lee Szany.
Awesome.
And
I'm Jamie. Yeah, and I'm Jami Philbrick. And again, thank you all for watching this show. You can follow me at Philbrick on Twitter and Instagram, my name on Facebook, and check out some of my movie reviews on moviefone.com. Thank you all again. Until we see you next year, have a great holiday. Have a great new year. Stay nerdy, and please come back to the Pop Council in 2022.